the hush of heaven holds my heart today. You're in this rarefied space and you're able to operate. I mean, your body is operating. He was talking, but he was aware that it wasn't him at all. He could actually be a spectator like everyone else in the audience. It's like, wow. The words coming through him were amazing. He was able to translate the tragedy of Lynn's death. Remember, the Course in Miracles line that's so great. The end of the world is not its destruction, but its translation into heaven. So Lynn's death was not evidence of destruction, but evidence of translation into heaven, into beauty, light, love. It was a celebration. The talk he was giving was a talk of celebration, of thanksgiving, not of regret, not of tragedy, not of anything negative at all. It's kind of like Lynn's life represented a level of honesty that's very rare in this world. Because again, most people are so defended with their ego. So the pain, the suffering, whatever but in general, you could say, I would say to you as Sun King, that if you really look closely at a tragic death, there's something beautiful in that tragedy. And so this is what Louis was speaking to this day, the beauty within. It doesn't mean that the appearance of, tragedy, the destruction of a body, a life, didn't happen. But inside, if you look closer, there's a great film that Louis loved, perhaps his very favorite film, called American Beauty. And in this movie, Kevin Spacey says at the very beginning, by the end of this year, I'll be dead. Okay, so we accept. Some people were thinking there's going to be a shift to happy ending, but no, he said truly that he knew, or he was talking from his higher self, saying, watch what happens, watch unfolds. By the end of this film, I'll be dead. But that's not the story. The story is the freedom that he finds, the beauty that he finds, American Beauty. This is a film about beauty. It's an amazing film. So like that tragedy that happens to Kevin Spacey's character in American Beauty, the tragedy of suicide happened to Louis' younger sister, Lynn. But it represented honesty, beauty, truth, love, light. Okay, and a little tale to this story that would actually happen the next spring at Easter. Louis would go back to Hope Church in Amherst, Massachusetts. He knew that he just had this thing again, this knowing. It's like Louis so plugged in now. He's so tuned in, right? Get tuned. See the shirt? Get tuned. Louis so tuned in now to me, to his higher self, to his destiny, all the pieces. Like there's never going to be any accidents, nothing that will happen from this point on in Louis' story, in his life, will be accidental, will be a mistake, will be like a waste of time or a misdirection or whatever. And actually come to realize that there never was, but things become so much more efficient when you're paying attention, okay? The pieces of the puzzle all come together, all for Louis' benefit. This is all for Louis' benefit, which in the end is for your benefit. I mean, Louis being groomed to be this voice for God, for his higher self, for Sun King. It's all the same thing. Okay, so part of this grooming is for Easter Sunday, this return to the womb. Remember, Amherst was the beginning of his true life, the true birth that he took as Sun King, as the one who would represent God, the unmanifested, eternity, taking the name of Sun King to describe that voice, okay? And of course, miracles is just the voice for God, the voice for God. And it's very clear in the teaching. I was just looking at some of the teacher's manual material this morning. I mean, it's very clear that anyone who answers this voice will eventually become a channel, right? Through you is ushered in a world unseen, unheard, yet truly there. Each of us that answers this call will become that, will become this conduit, a perfect conduit for eternity to be represented in the world of time and space. Okay, it's the translation of the world into heaven. Okay, so when Louis had been living in Amherst, he was going to a Unity Universalist church, very dry, very intellectual, very boring. He liked the connection there that he had with some people as part of his new family that he was finding, a new sense of home. But he heard about this place called Hope Church, and Carlos and Crystal Anderson, who were the co-ministers of this church. The father had been this Baptist minister. So it was a Baptist church that had gone through this transformation into a New Age Course in Miracles based church, an integration of the best of both. So there was still a lot of the hallelujah, giving testimony. Most of the congregation was Black. But Louis found a real amazing home there and a real amazing brother in Carlos. So Carlos had lost in the past year a brother, and his father had passed. So he was going to give this talk on Easter Sunday, basically called Friends in High Places, about our relationship with the divine, our relationship with those who have dropped the body, and they become our angelic friends in high places. So Louis knew he needed to be there. It was a remarkable talk, and he had said to Carlos beforehand, Carlos knew about his sister passing also in the previous year. And so basically Louis just said to Carlos, they had become very close friends over time. And he said, I want to give testimony. I'll be ready. So please, let me. It was obvious to Carlos that Louis was very ready. During his talk, Louis was starting to be very agitated. In fact, he knew he had a couple accomplices that sat on either side of him. He asked them to kind of help him, anchor him, like hold his hands and help him sort of stay in his body, because he just knew that in this talk he was going to start vibrating at such a high level that it would be as if he was going to have a stroke or just explode. The body couldn't contain this level of energy, which again, this is an experience that many of you might have. Okay, it's certainly an experience you're going to have when you drop your body. You're going to enter this vibrational reality that is so powerful that, of course, you can't stay in your body. You're dropping your body. But so imagine having this experience while staying fully alive in the body. It's a rare thing. It's lucky that Louis was only still just 38 years old, that his heart was strong enough to withstand this, because it was so remarkable. The level of energy that was vibrating through. And in fact, when Carlos finished talking and Louis just kind of jumped up out of his seat, Carlos said that there were these blue flames, blue sparks coming off each of his fingertips. It was so much energy that built up. It just needed to be released. And the blue energy of the spectrum is a very high level energy, very close to white, pure. So he just popped up and just said, something like, the Christ is alive in me today, or something like that, because it was just an affirmation of what was true. And during Carlos's talk, Louis had this amazing hallucination, vision, because Jesus used to come to Louis sometimes when he was in prayer, crying, and Louis he would have this vision of this entity, which he came to realize again was Jesus, would come and lift him up by his left armpit and walk him to this precipice And he would just, without words, extend his right arm, pointing to the horizon while he held Louis and say, like, this is our destiny together. This is our work ahead of us. And then he would step off the precipice with Louis, and they would, fly. This was always that time that was called flying lessons. So during Carlos's talk, Louis is going into this high state of reverie. So of course, an hallucination like that would be expected. And of course he had it. The same thing, because his eyes were closed, Jesus lifting him up and walking him to the precipice. But instead of pointing straight out, he pointed to Louis's other side. Look over there. And Louis turned his head and he saw Lynn in her magnificence, in her angelic form. You could basically see features of her face that made it clear that it was her, but she was an energy body. She wasn't really in the body. Her hair was flowing, and it was just this amazing thing. So he basically said, okay, this is her true self that now she's fully returned to. She's no longer tethered at all to the world of sorrow. So that was the end of the story, okay, about pay attention, what's really going on. If you don't think you're a pilot like me, you don't know shit from Shinola. The whole package, was more or less complete. That Louis had received the training. He was sort of accepted, even though he had still take baby steps. He still had work to do as far as cleaning out his karmic locker. We'll get to that next time. But it's like this was complete. It was solidified. Louis was never going to go backwards ever again. It was done. Okay, so it's really important to hear this message that as you answer the call, you will be given, like Louis was, the opportunities to put the teaching to the test. There's a lot of people that study spiritual things, but they're not really ready or willing to receive the message. They want to be seekers, they don't want to be finders. Okay, so this is something where, again, there's the split in the road. Those who will remain seekers all of their life, never really finding, never receiving the message. Because if you receive the message, everything changes. Everything changes. The whole life, the whole world, everything changes. We'll get to that more as we go along. Pay attention, listen. I love you.